Nick Norton here with the next video in my Pro Tools 101 Learn It From Scratch series that I am making for my class in music production that I teach at Santa Monica College and putting on the internet for everyone else to learn from. You'll have to excuse me today if I seem a little tired and out of it. An album that I've been working for 5 years on came out this morning, and I've been going hard trying to get it out into the world, and I'm on a flight tomorrow, so I'm kind of tired. But yeah, look up Music for Sunsets by me and tell everyone if you like it, and if you don't like it, don't tell anyone. All right, let's get to today's topic. We are talking about signal flow, and that's a really important topic. It's probably the single most important thing to understand when you're working with sound, whether it's Pro Tools or a different digital audio workstation or a live mixer or trying to patch cables on a stage or trying to set up a home theater system or record a podcast with a microphone. How to do any of those things and how to move sound from one place to another, or electrical signal from one place to another, or data like MIDI from one place to another, is a skill set that can help you in any of those situations. And we refer to all of it as signal flow. I think of it kind of as a map of how sound is moving through a system. And if that doesn't make sense, I found a couple good-looking examples of all of this that I think will help you. Yeah, let's do that one second. Here we go. All right, I found this on a Google image search, but it's one of the better signal flow diagrams I have ever seen. What it does is trace the path that a sound takes from being a sound, here a singer, to being voltage, here the voice hits the microphone and gets turned into electrical current in a cable. And then at this point, the A to D converter, that's analog to digital converter, turns that voltage into ones and zeros so your computer can do stuff with it. And then all this is your computer doing stuff with it. That's what we're going to talk about today. But generally, audio comes into the software, gets saved to a hard drive, and then you can make it louder and softer and pan it and all that kind of stuff, and then it gets summed to stereo and gets converted back to voltage from ones and zeros, and then it gets spit out to your headphones, which turn it into sound for your ears. You could also put speakers here. So if you want, I would suggest pausing the video and staring at this for a while. If you have what's called an audio interface, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. This bit and this bit are usually just built into the box. That's what an interface is. You plug microphones and guitars and keyboards into it. It gets them up to line level and converts them to digital that your computer can use, and then it converts it back to analog and sends it to your speakers or your mixing board or your headphones or wherever else you want it to go. So an interface like a Focusrite Scarlett or a Universal Audio Apollo, that is what it's doing. If you have a USB mic, all that is inside the microphone usually. All right, so let's now get into some... Oh, this is the other one I was looking for. It's the same kind of thing. Sound hits a mic, gets converted, your computer does stuff, it gets converted back to voltage and gets converted back to sound waves. Yeah, this is a really good diagram. Take a screenshot. I'll wait. Okay, got your screenshot? Cool. I'm going to take a screenshot too. Command-Shift-4. That's fun. Cool, we don't need that anymore. Right, so we are going to start by talking about getting sound into the computer system. And for that, you generally need a microphone or a keyboard with a 1/4-inch output or a guitar or something to plug into your interface. And then, as I pull up the interface control software, I use a Universal Audio Apollo 8. We can see signal coming in through the mic. My microphone on my desk is a Shure SM7B. I've labeled this channel SM7B. And this is what a lot of mixers look like. Sound comes in at the top. We call that an input. And then goes through some effects that we insert into the signal chain. If I click that, it brings up an 1176 that, it's moving the needle just barely. I like the way this compressor sounds. I'm getting sidetracked. And then it comes out somewhere. Don't worry about this clipping. I'm kind of doing that on purpose to saturate this. Okay, don't worry about that. Likewise, over here you see a channel named Microbrute. There is a 1/4-inch plug on the interface that is an input that my synth is plugged into. And this is not a plug-in synth. This is an analog physical box with keys on it on my desk. And when I play it, we hear sound coming out, partially because the track's not muted. I am doing this so I don't get feedback on the recording. And yeah, top to bottom, straightforward. That is, for the moment, all you need to know about inputs. It is worth noting, though, that we are calling these channels, not tracks, and you're going to see why in just a moment in Pro Tools. So let's drag that onto the side monitor. Having 2 monitors is helpful. Having even more monitors is even more helpful. So now I'm back in Pro Tools. I'm going to create, let's call it 4 tracks of mono audio, because I'm going to put 1 channel onto each track. So I press Command-Shift-N, I type a 4. Let's just call this, I hate just leaving it as audio. Let's call it example. Equally useless, but I like it more than just default. All right, so let's make these a little bigger. Your screen might look a little different. If you're not seeing everything I'm seeing here, the inserts and the sends and the I/O, you can click right here, and then you get checkboxes for everything that you might or might not want. I actually like showing comments sometimes, because then I can be like, voice, synth. I mean, you do that in track names, so maybe super loud and annoying, fix this, is pretty helpful, and you never let your client see that, because when they come into the studio, you're just like, yeah, let's get to work. Okay. So you can see here, because I've spent some time naming my inputs, that the in the I/O tab, that stands for in, out, and refers to whatever track you're seeing this in the header of. I can select the same microphone, SM7B, that is plugged in to my interface, SM7B. So I wanted to point that out because I want to show the difference between tracks and channels. Notice these all defaulted to SM7B, so each of these is a track, and if I really wanted to, I could record in to 4 tracks simultaneously. Whereas where the signal is actually flowing is a channel. So we have SM7B on channel 1, and that is going to track 1, track 2, track 3, and track 4. Now, if we want to do some other sounds on different tracks, all we have to do is select different inputs to those tracks. So now I have channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4 going to track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. If you're wondering about how these guys are named, you can name them yourself so they match your interface. If you're like at a desk where you never move anything, that's a good idea. You go to Setup and to I/O, and then to Inputs, and then you can literally just like double click and type or whatever. See, I don't have anything plugged into input 3, so I just made it so it doesn't even appear on the input options, and analog 4 is the next one, which is where the modular is plugged in. We're getting a little into the weeds, I apologize. All right, so if we want to record on a track, we can press this little I, which stands for input monitoring. And that is going to show us how much signal is coming into Pro Tools when I talk. Let's call this Nick Voice. Cool. The reason we call it that, you'll see in just a moment. If we want to actually record on the track, we can turn that off. It doesn't really matter. But you press this little record button here, and that arms the track for recording. Now, it's going to start recording wherever your cursor is. I talked about pre-roll and post-roll in a previous video, so if you want it to start playing sooner and then start recording here, you can mess with that. I'm going to take this out of loop mode because I don't trust it while I'm recording unless I'm actually trying to loop something. And then you can do this by pressing this record enable button and then pressing play. Most people just press the 3 key on their number pad over on the right of their keyboard. So if I press record, hey, look, now I'm talking, and we can see a waveform showing, and I'm going to press space to stop that. And the reason I named the track before recording is now I have an audio file called Nick Voice 01. Let's, I have to hide something. Pretend you're not watching this. Great. Now, hey, look, now I'm talking. Did I mute my speakers? And we can see a wave. I did mute my speakers. Well, this is what it sounds like. Hey, look, now I'm talking, and we can see a waveform showing, and now we've successfully recorded. I just deleted that. Don't worry about it. Actually, do we want that? Yeah, let's put that back in. All right, moving on. To really hammer home the idea that you can send one input to multiple places, because we're going to use that a lot today, I'm going to record this input to 4 tracks. I'm going to mute the speakers so I don't get any feedback when I light her up. And I'm holding the shift key to activate multiple tracks right now. And if I press record, hey look, now I am recording on 4 tracks. That is pretty useless for a solo voice, but you know it can be done. If we want multiple instruments on multiple tracks, let's disarm these two. You can press Shift R to do that too. See? That's kind of nice, so you don't have to click on stuff. Let's say I want my voice on this track and a synth on this track, so I'm going to select my synth and call this Micro Brute. I have an Arturia Micro Brute. It's cool. Make sure we got signal coming in. And then if I just hit record with my other hand, I can... My mic is muted, so that is probably going to sound ridiculous when I play it back. I didn't hear what I was doing on the synth. Fun. But you get the idea here. Now, what if we want to send a piece of audio, some sort of sound, be it an instrument or a voice or a sound effect or whatever, to multiple places? Pro Tools makes this pretty easy. For the most part, we use what are called aux tracks to accomplish this. There is also a way to do it using audio tracks, and I'm going to show that way first because it's a little clearer. So I'm going to create a new stereo audio track. Press Command right to turn this into stereo. Leave this on audio track. I'm going to call this Mix. And this is one of those tracks I save an important color for, like red. Red means recording. Red means danger, look over here. So only use red for like important stuff. Don't just have, a bass being red in the middle of your session. We mentioned briefly, or I mentioned briefly, that in the I/O we have where the sound is coming into the track, but then we also have where the sound is going out of the track. So if I wanted the sound from all 4 of these tracks to come down and hit this mix track, you'll see why in a moment, I could set the output here, go down to track, and pick mix. And here's a trick. If you shift-click to hold a few, and then option-shift-click, you can change this for just the selected tracks. See, all 3 changed right there. You got to be careful with that because if you hold Option instead of Option Shift, it will change it for every single track in the whole session, which can be a complete nightmare. So right now, what we've got, I've got my inputs muted. See, I'm not armed to record at all. And let's just put this voice right here over to the left, and the microbrute here over to the right, so we can see what is happening. And now on this mix track, I am going to arm it for recording. Let's just play a little to make sure we have signal coming through as expected. We don't. What's going on? Mix in, mix out. Oh, great. Do I have to troubleshoot in this video? Mic is muted. Oh, there it is. God, that's really bad, isn't it? That's the first time I heard it, actually. So we have to keep input monitoring turned on. Why is this? I must have pressed the N key because my cursor was following. And we can press record right there and select the length that we want something to record. That's a useful trick. And now if I press the 3 key on my numpad, record with my other hand, I can... My mic is muted. Okay, wow, that's annoying. Now I'm going to turn off the input monitoring and off the recording, and what we listen to, I can mute these other tracks here by pressing Shift M, or I could have just soloed this by pressing Shift S. I guess that would have been easier. And now what we're listening to is not the signal coming in, and is not this recording or this recording, but it's this summed recording. Summing is the word we use for this, of the two tracks that we fed into this track. So, record with my other hand, I can... My mic is muted. So hopefully that's a pretty clear example of how that works. We are going to just show a couple more applications of this, and then students, you are free to go attempt your homework assignment that I will be giving you in class in 2 days. And everyone else, you can wait around for whatever the next video is. All right, we are going to generate a little white noise so that we can, let's do pink noise actually. Pink noise is better than white noise. So that we can send it to a few different places at once within the system, so that you can see how this all works. All right, so I'm gonna let's make this track pink because I'm gonna pink noise on it. That stuff's really useful. And this is the first time I'm gonna be showing the audio suite. The audio suite is a system that loads your plugins just like you would load them on tracks, but then it applies whatever the plugin is doing to the file destructively, as opposed to running it through the plugin in real time. That'll make more sense in a moment. You don't totally need to understand that right now. So if we come down to other, we have a built-in plugin called Signal Generator, and we can click here for pink noise. Pink noise and white noise are just weighted a little differently. Pink noise sounds more even to human hearing, whereas white noise sounds a little high-pitched focused, even though it isn't. So we use pink noise for like making sure the speakers are turned on, because you won't blow out your hearing that way. All right, so we just select a region here and hit render, and we have example 3 signal generator. I'm going to unmute that. We don't hear anything. The reason we don't hear anything is because the output of this track, mix, is going here, and this track isn't armed. So now we can monitor the input and hear our pink noise. That is like deeply uninteresting, right? Okay, don't worry, it's about to get interesting. We mentioned at the beginning that when we look at a mixer, signal flow is often top to bottom. We have not yet looked at the Pro Tools mixer. So to bring it up, you press Command Enter, or you can go up here to Window and select the mix window. And then I use Command Enter to switch back and forth between mix and edit. If I'm honest, I almost never have the mix window open. I'm doing this by ear. I just do it for when I'm like assigning a lot of channels to something at one time. Super loud synth and annoying, fix this. See, now I know I thought I was annoying earlier. How helpful are comments? Okay, so what are we calling this? Let's call this pink noise so we can see it here too. And let's say, rather than sending our pink noise to the output, we wanted to send it to a couple different places to do different things with it. Well, that is what these sends are for, right here. You can set some up of your own if you don't have any, by going to the I/O window and going to buses and clicking new path and creating some and naming them however you want. I'm going to actually make a couple here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's call this low noise. Let's call this high noise. That's so I know where I'm setting them, and just so you see what I'm going to do in a hot minute, we're going to call this reverb. Alright, so I am now going to make a couple of, let's do this with aux tracks. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm going to make two mono, because we're already in mono and we have no reason to split it out right now, aux tracks called filtered noise. Don't worry about that for the moment. And what I want to do is select the send that I just created in the I/O window by going here down to bus. A bus is like the sound gets on the bus and goes somewhere else. And I'm going to select low noise. And then I'm also going to get on this bus and select high noise. See why those are on sends, or see how those are on two separate sends here, A and E. So if I then, for the input of these two tracks, select low noise, that's mono, don't worry about that for the moment, and high noise, and if I set both of these to input monitoring, we are going to see, when I press play, the original noise track here and the filtered noise track coming in here and here. Oh, I know why that didn't work. Okay, so once you have the send set up, you have to click on it, which brings up this little floaty guy here, and bring the audio level up a bit. There we go. Now we see it in both places. That is still totally uninteresting. So we are going to talk about inserts real quick. Let me just mute these. Yeah. So if we want to have an effect on a sound, like a delay or a distortion or a reverb or something like that, you can put a plugin right into the signal chain. Audio comes in, it hits the insert. I'm going to put a equalizer on these two tracks. And now, I'm just going to mute this guy, so we're only going to hear this. Let's click on that so we see it. Why aren't we seeing it? Oh, because I deactivated the send. Cool. Now we have... Still get it like that? No. Alright. Quick aside. Sorry. When I click on the send, you have this button for pre. That means pre-fader. So if you check that, then you can turn the volume all the way down on the fader and still send the audio somewhere else, like this. Let's bring that up to full volume. So that's useful if you only want to hear effects. Right, so we called this track filtered noise 1, low noise, so let's make this noise lower pitched. And now on this track, let's make it higher pitched. Turn off that monitoring. Oh, activate this. Make it pre-fader. Unmute the track we're working on. And Now it's high-pitched. I'm going to loop that noise so I don't have to keep being annoyed by it stopping, which you do by selecting it and then pressing Command-Shift-L to activate the loop right there. And now I can just leave it running, and I'm going to be talking over white noise. That's great. Pink noise, excuse me. Anyway, what you can tell from the, where are we? Wrong buttons. What you can tell from the mixer, just as far as visually tracking signal flow, is that we've got the pink noise coming in here, being sent to low noise and high noise, which these tracks are called. There's the low noise input. There's the high noise input. After the input, it goes through here, and we've got our EQ on each channel. There's the low one. There's the high one. And then it comes out the output of that track, like anything else. Analog 1, 2 is my speakers. You might have this as like the name of your interface, LR, headphones, depends on how your audio engine is set up. That should give you a lot of ideas about how to route signal. I'm just going to give you a real quick, because this video has been going for a while now. I just delete stuff I don't need constantly. Real world example of why this might be helpful. So I'm going to expand my tracks window here, and I have all these tracks from a homework assignment that my class has already been doing. So I'm going to make them active, and I'm going to unhide them by clicking on all these, and I'm just going to go ahead and deactivate and hide and make inactive for these. There, now you know how to do that too. Good trick, right? All right, so let's say we've been talking about sending one track to multiple places. What if we want to send a bunch of tracks to one place? There are a couple of ways to do that. The most common reason you would do that is to add reverb. To make everyone sound like they're playing in the same room, it's nice to send all the different sounds to one reverb unit, because then it kind of makes them all gelled together. And that's something you pretty much always want to do, even if it's just a very, very light touch. So let's do that. Here's the song we're working on. Right, and we can see our sends here on the left side. If we can't, remember, you can click here and show stuff. And we can see all these tracks in the mixer now that they're on hidden. I'm just going to keep the mixer closed because honestly, I never use it. So we are going to make a track to put the reverb on, and then we are going to send everything to that reverb track. So I'm going to press Command-Shift-N as usual to make a new track. But this time, instead of making an audio track, I'm going to be making what is called an AUX input. I'm going to call it reverb, and I'm going to make it stereo. If you have a 5.1 reverb, you could do that. You probably shouldn't if this is as far in as you are, but there's a lot of options for how you can route stuff within Pro Tools. So let's just go ahead and create that, and I like my reverbs to be blue. And we are going to insert on that, I know we haven't talked about plugins much, a reverb plugin. I will use the one that everyone in class has, the built-in, oh god, what's it called? Deverb. It's perfectly fine. And I'm going to make it painfully big. Let's make it a 9-second delay. Yeah, and let's set it to church mode. Okay, cool. And notice that this wet-dry control, that's how much original signal is in and how much affected signal is in, is at 100% wet. You always want to do that when you're on an AUX track because your dry sound is coming from these tracks themselves. All right, so I'm just going to close that window up. And we now want to send all of these tracks into the reverb. So I'm actually going to hold Shift and click down here, and then hold Option Shift. And I don't actually know if this works. I haven't done this in a while. Go to Bus, and there's the bus called Reverb I made. Boom! On all of them. Check that out. Sweet. And I want them all to be nice and loud. So if you option click on anything in Pro Tools, it sets it to the default. That's a good trick for literally any knob in any plugin. Just option click and it jumps up. There is almost certainly a better way to do what I'm doing right now, and that way is to hold option, click, and drag. That copies your settings to wherever you happen to be dragging stuff. So I can just do this, and now all of these tracks, see, are sending to the reverb track. This doesn't have an input yet, so as you can guess, we're going to go to the buses and grab the reverb input, and we can bring up a little volume up-down fader by clicking this little thing that looks like a fader next to the output. So this is the volume of the reverb. Take it all the way down, and I will bring it in. There it is. Oh, that sounds really, really, really bad. And see, it even keeps processing it for a second as the reverb fades out after we press stop. Let's see if I just bypass that. So it's a little quieter with the reverb on. We're not really talking about reverb in this video, but we did send all of these tracks to one plugin, and that is really, really the point. If we wanted to send everything to a mix track to bounce it down, let's make this active. We can make all those outputs to the track we made called mix, and it's down here, and we arm it for recording and input monitoring, and we press the 3 key. Oh, and it's feeding back into itself, so that was a huge mistake. The reason that happened is I was holding Alt and not Shift, so I changed the output to this to itself. It was going out and back in. That's a way to blow out your eardrums if you're monitoring a track and you do it that way. There we go, now it sounds right. So that was a good lesson to all of us. All right, now I'm gonna record a little bit. And now, we don't even have to bounce that. We already have a finished audio file right there that you could just get out of the audio files folder of your session if you want to keep it in this format. Or if you press Command-Shift-K, you can just stick it anywhere on your desktop or external hard drive or whatever in its current format. So that's the better way to export than bouncing, because you have to listen to everything, and because there's no quality change, we're going to talk about bouncing in the future. All right. By this point, your head should be spinning. So go back and watch this guy a few times, because if you can get the handle down on inputs and outputs and sending signal from one place to another, for instance, after Pro Tools, this all gets sent to my interface's outputs, and that gets sent to my speakers, and that gets sent to my head. If you can figure that out, then you can figure out virtually any audio system you're faced with, even if you've never seen it before. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. If you're in Los Angeles tonight, come to the Semi-Tropic at 8 p.m. for a record release party. It's called Music for Sunsets. I'm Nick Norton. Thanks for watching. Bye.